Do do do, theme song. Do do do, I'm broke so this is my theme song. Do do do, just imagine this is an awesome theme song. Do do, theme song. Left of the box. Hello, welcome to Left of the Box. Bonjour, bienvenue. I'm Sandy. Welcome, welcome, welcome. John Litham and Morbius to this Monday evening afternoon live stream. I feel like I'm live streaming for the American Fair right now, given the attendance, given the viewership that I have right now. There's a reason why I don't tend to stream on Mondays or like any day that isn't a Sunday, because people aren't used to it. So it's harder for me to get people out. So I saw photos of the American Fair and I'm feeling it. I'm feeling their pain. And it's free to show up. You just need an internet connection. Anyway, I hope everyone is doing well. I did a live stream last night. Super busy. No, super overwhelming. got a lot done, but there's still more to go over. So I decided to split it in two because 5-hour long live streams are draining. They are draining me. But please, John or Morbius, give me a thumbs up. Let me know you can see and hear me. Oh, well, John says, oh no, we're much better behaved than those people. So I'm assuming that means you can hear and see me. Yeah, majority report was talking about the American Fair, and also there's some tweets from Emma right now that are showing the attendance. It's embarrassing. Like their July 4th celebration. It's not going to be very well attended, I would imagine. But July 1st, which is Wednesday, is Canada Day. And I will be doing my regular slot on this space to celebrate it or acknowledge it or, talk about it. And I might be in some Canada swag. We'll see. We'll see. And I plan to have it to be just more of a lighthearted stream, talking about all the prime ministers and, you know, just a little bit of fun maybe. Because I get it. I get it. Canada as a nation sucks a lot of the time. I get it. It's the whole imperial settler colonialism. But do you know what? I still just want to maybe chill out a bit and appreciate the good, My stepfather was not a good person, kind of an abusive asshole. But there was one time I dropped the charm of my necklace down the bathroom sink and I was really upset. It was a gift given to me from a friend. And he got his tools. He went under the sink. He undid everything. He found my little charm. He gave it back to me. So even in times where you're living under like abusive relationships and stuff like that, there are still moments of good. And well, for some people anyway. And so I kind of feel that with Canada, like even though Canada is not necessarily a great nation, not that there are such a thing, there's still some good. There's some good that I wish to acknowledge. So there's that. There's that. So today I was working on the TYT essay. It got longer. I found some videos, so I need to add those in. Well, one was I had a video, but I needed a better source, so I went and found the original source. It didn't take too long. So it's a cleaner quality type thing, and just finishing up the commentary, and it's about the wildfires in California. You see, there's a compare and contrast available because Jank and Anna also commented on California wildfires, back in 2019. So they talked about it in 2025 and they talked about it in 2019. Very stark difference in how they covered it. It is what it is, I suppose. Also working a bit on my drawing. If I get a lot of love from the SandBox, I'll show you the progress so far. I'm still like, I think it looks like the person I'm drawing, but I need people to kind of affirm that it does. I would imagine you would know who this person is. It's still a long way from being done, so it's still in the process where I'm like, I'm not sure I've hit it. I'm not sure if this is who it's supposed to be. If it's looking like who I want it to look like. So we'll see. We'll see if I get a lot of love in the SandBox. I might show off the progress so far. But it's only been like 4 hours of work on it. So, I still have like, there's 6 to 8 hours of work to put on it. Oh, but yeah. And it's when I start like smoothing out the scribbles, like smudging out for the shading and stuff and adding the background shading that it really starts to come together. And I'm not at that phase yet. So it looks really kind of like a scribbly mess, I think. Oh, anyway, so today we're going to be going over Mark Carney bailing out condo developers, the Montreal shooting that happened, that, you know, I'm way past the point on it because everyone else has covered it. I'm late to the gate with it, and some queer issues. I think. What else? Is that it? Is that... So we got, yeah, that's the shooting there. Also talking about the queer issues. Yeah, okay. And then there's, yeah, the developers and... No, that's the shooter. What's this? Oh, that's just police being racist stuff. I wanted to start with what did... Oh, no, I'm starting with that. Okay. You have no idea what I'm looking at right now. You have no idea. No. So, just police being racist is another one. Not shocking to anyone, I would imagine. Not at this point. If you're a fan of my channel, you might have seen other stories based around that. It goes back to the theme of what yesterday's live stream was, and that's the two-tiered media, policing, and politics. And so, be covering a bit of that. We will. Anyway, how are we for viewers? It says I am up to 6. Whew. It's getting close to fireworks. July 4th fireworks on the... Oh, what's it called? The mall. Why is it called the mall? I don't get it. It's a field. Why don't they just call it the field? It's the Parliamentary Mall. Somebody, Yankee in the SandBox, let me know. Why is it called the mall? It doesn't make much sense to me. No, it doesn't. As a Canuck, it does not make any sense to me. Then again, I don't know if Parliament Hill is actually on a hill. Huh. I should look into that. That's in Canada, you know, Ottawa, our capital, with our Parliament buildings. It's on Parliament Hill. I don't know if it's actually on a hill. It would make sense if it was, but I don't know. I do not know. I'll find out for Wednesday. Why don't we just get into it? Because again, I don't want to end too late. I do want to get up early tomorrow, do get back into my routine. John is saying it's basically an old-timey word for a public walkway. It still doesn't make any sense. I get it might be an old-timey word, but still doesn't... I don't know. Is it because malls have big walkways in it, or what came first? The big walkway word or a actual mall? Is that why they named a mall? Because they have big walkways in it? What came first, the mall or the walkway? Yes. Anyway, I'm still super nervous about this table. It's not... I'm worried. Also, my internet has been acting up. It's kind of timed out at moments, so if I cut out for any reason, just keep holding on and I should be back shortly. It's getting hot in here. Luckily, I have AC and I have a couple fans blowing at me, so that's keeping me cool. But we're about to go into a pretty bad heat wave in my area. I'm not looking forward to that. It's times like that I just kind of want to stay indoors and not go outdoors at all, but I do need to go outdoors because I need to get groceries and I want to go to the gym and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, why don't we get into the news of the day? Even though I don't think either of you who are in the SandBox are American or Canadians, but this is still good to know. And for everyone who's catching up later on, you'll learn stuff. Yeah, you'll learn stuff about Canada. I feel it's important. Also, I think I learned that Canada has made it to the next round in FIFA. I think people told me that yesterday. I think it's the same thing. Yeah, I don't think there's been another game since, so I'm probably just thinking of that late. Hello, hermeteorologist. Saying mall came before shopping center being called mall. Oh, hermeteorologist is Canadian, so this one's for you. This whole stream. So that's why they call a shopping center a mall, is because that's an old-timey word for a walkway, and there's big walkways in a mall. Huh. Get it, got it, good. Let's see. So I got this, and then I'm going to go to news share on my OBS. There we go. Good, right screen. There we go. Don Davies, who is an NDP MP. Those were two separate things in those 5 letters. John Lethem, for an American, I've been told I have a very non-American demeanor. Oh. Good. Yes. So, Don Davies, an NDP MP. Those are 2 different things in those 5 letters. Hello. Grand Theft Autobot, welcome to the Sand Stream. I like that. I like that. It's going to get ruckus, so it might turn into a sandstorm. No, it's not going to get ruckus today, actually, I don't think. Fuck, this is going to be a long live stream. My brain these days is just like phew, all over the place. I don't know if that makes for a more entertaining live stream or a more discombobulated live stream. I still eventually get the important news out there. But like I said, I don't want this to be 5 hours long because I do need to eat dinner and stuff afterwards. Hopefully it won't make me sick. I almost made myself sick last night. Sometimes I overdo it. So hopefully tonight I will not make myself sick by having dinner. Anyway, yes. So NDP MP Don Davies says it was Build Canada Strong, not to bail out developer donors. It appears free market principles only work one way: private profits, public losses. This condo bailout won't create a single new unit of affordable housing. It's time to create real non-market housing. Socialized housing. I'm on board for that. Again, people know I'm on the extreme left. I'm a radical leftist. I'd probably be cataloged or categoried as a terrorist down in the States. I'm so far left. Where I believe we should, oh fuck, what's the word? Expropriate housing that has been sitting empty, that is multiple properties of some people that they don't use, that is just sitting around as an investment for foreign investors and all that sort of stuff. I feel we should just take it. We should just take it, make it into housing. We're in a housing crisis. So if it's not being used because some greedy assholes just want to sit on it and use it as a money laundering thing, yeah, take it, make it into socialized housing. But Don Davies was quote tweeting this out. So this is a clip of Mark Carney talking about it, saying Metro Vancouver has 2,500 completed condos sitting empty. Great. Take them. Don't bail them out. Just take them and make them into socialized housing. Developers don't want to sell at a loss, so Ottawa and BC are stepping in with billions in infrastructure money, cutting development charges by up to 50% and using financial tools to convert vacant condos into affordable housing. Later, when we asked if the government could buy unsold units from developers, Carney replied, "You can do both. Taxpayers becoming the backstop for condo market?" Yeah, well, here in Ontario, we already know that because Doug Ford is doing something very similar in Toronto.
As a follow-up, I'd like to hear more about converting empty condos into homes for people. Does that involve the government buying extra stock from developers and then renting those out, or reselling them? Are there details you can give us on that?
You have 2 things. I mean, there's different models, and we'll work through the modalities and bring it out in the fall, is what I said in French. The but you can do both, and my view, experts will design it, but one would look to do both. Effectively, though, what you're doing is buying them at a price, spreading out the financing, because you can do that, the financing of the underlying condo at our financing rate, but targeting targeting at a level that is affordable. So, and it is a way to clear off on the books of this overhang. Yeah.
As a follow.
Just putting taxpayers on the hook for condos that wouldn't sell. Now, why won't condos sell? They're very overpriced, and there's not a huge market for them because they're tiny. We need homes for families. These are good for like students, people who are traveling, you know, young professionals that are single. They're not homes. But we'll get into that. But you see, Carney used to be a different person. You see, we are dealing with mirror dimension Carney now, because Carney used to talk about this sort of thing, and he was a banker, as we know, and he was just saying, you know what? It's the whole capitalist market thing. If you fail, then you don't get a bailout. You know, it's on you. It's on you. No bailouts, he says in 2011.
You know, it has consequences. If you run a small business, if you run a family farm, if you make a mistake, you'll go out of business. You run a large bank, you have to be rescued because you'll have such bigger impacts on the rest of the system. That doesn't make sense.
Or if you're a condo developer.
And so there's a variety of things that are being put in place, being designed so that banking can be like any other business. If you succeed, you get rewarded, but if you fail, your institution fails, and the rest of the economy continues to go on.
So you're saying no bailouts?
I'm saying no bailouts. That's the objective, ending too big to fail.
And yeah, too big to fail is such a bizarre concept. Watching those big companies be too big to fail and be saved, and then watching all these people, especially in America, lose their homes. Look at Greece and Italy and Spain and other countries, like facing this stuff. Everybody's too big to fail except for the individual. They won't bail out the individual. So do you actually think that you can change the culture? Because if you watch Inside Job, a lot of those same guys. Did you watch the movie? Did you like that movie?
I didn't see the movie. I saw the trailer. The trailer was painful enough.
Yeah. Won't bail out individuals, but the government tends to bail out big things that are too big to fail, which shouldn't be a thing. It shouldn't be a thing. No. And old Mark Carney used to think that. Yeah, too bad we didn't elect him, apparently. And so Mo Amir, who is a political commentator over in BC, says, leave the condos empty, tax the empty condos for being empty, let condo prices plummet until condos are no longer empty. That would lower the cost of housing, which is a good thing. It's a good thing. And he was quote tweeting Gregor Robertson, who is the MP for Vancouver, and the one who is responsible for a lot of this mess, the Minister of Housing and Infrastructure, says, let's talk about our plan to convert empty units in BC to affordable homes. In BC, there are thousands of homes that are empty, while thousands of British Columbians are looking for affordable homes. Build Canada Homes is going to work with the BC government to fix that by turning empty units into affordable homes. As we build up supply, this is one of the fastest and most efficient ways to get people into homes. Through this partnership, we will acquire units in bulk at a discount to market value at a time when prices and sales are already both low. We could leave these units sitting empty, or we could take action that will provide much needed affordable housing to 2,200 families and individuals. They were saying 2,500 are empty. Again, if you're a family, you ain't going to be living in a condo, especially if it's been built recently, because they've been getting smaller the more recent they're built. More details, blah, 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 blah. To end the housing crisis, we need to use every available tool. Socialized housing. Build new supply, protect rentals, support infrastructure, and bring empty homes into use faster. Well, Don Davies also replied to this or quote tweeted this, saying, if liberals were truly concerned about homes sitting empty, why did you just eliminate the federal underused housing tax in your budget? That tax charged 1% on homes sitting vacant or underused, owned primarily by foreign nationals. Maybe because developers wanted you to? Yeah. So, you mean there was a way to incentivize condo developers to lower prices and maybe sell those units and stuff by using a tax that the Carney government got rid of? Got it. Got it. Yeah, huh. Interesting that. And so now money that could be used towards like people with disabilities, indigenous programs, healthcare, all that sort of stuff, it's going to go to a condo developer who's already rich. That's Carney's Canada for you. So here we have Carney replying to a lot of the pushback he was getting, because he was getting a lot. But Christo Avalos was saying about Carney's pushback, what Carney actually saying, people found out I was bailing out my real estate buddies and they're pissed. Yes. Because here we have PM Carney defends condo bailout. I don't think we've done a particularly good job of rolling this out, explaining exactly what it is. Yeah, we don't care about the developers. It's the home. It's the home, I'm telling you. A home. See, my internet is lagging. Hopefully you can still see me. Oh, there we go.
I want to go back to your announcement last week on buying the vacant units in BC. It's taken a lot of people by surprise. Some developers have said they didn't ask for this. There were, though, a lot of developers at your fundraiser in BC in February. Did any?
You know what? I didn't ask for it, but I would really love it the Carney government bailed me out. That'd be nice. I'd appreciate it. It's just like one of those unexpected gifts. You know, when somebody buys something off my wish list and I come home and I see a package, it's like, ooh, this is nice. Yeah, no, that'd be nice. That'd be nice.
Anybody ask you for this from the development community?
First off, thank you for asking me that question.
Again, Canadian translation for people who don't know, whenever a politician says thank you for that question, they're really saying fuck you.
Because, not the last bit, I'll answer that last bit, but first off, no developer asked for this for me directly. So that's a simple answer. But
I'm just giving them
I want to go to the broader issue. And I want to say up front, I don't think we've done, self included, a particularly good job of rolling this out and explaining exactly what it is. So with your indulgence, I'm going to say, I think it's
Yeah, I didn't. Ooh, I guess people understood it the first time. I need to make it more convoluted. Because people are realizing taxpayer money is going to go towards these condo developers who make condos that are way too small and too expensive for people to buy.
Important to say a few words of what this is and what this isn't. We start, as we always do, with Canadians. We don't start with developers. We don't start what. Yes, it's great that there are developers and they build condos. What we care about is affordable housing, enough affordable housing, in this case, for the people of British Columbia. And the province of British Columbia, which initiated the idea, sees an opportunity.
So really, how does this help the people of British Columbia get affordable housing? Wouldn't it just be some people in Vancouver, but, you know, everyone else still has to deal with unaffordable housing everywhere all the time?
Potentially, given what's happening in that market, to convert some of these condos that are lying unsold to affordable housing, particularly rent-to-buy affordable housing for...
Oh, rent to buy. Ha ha. Whew. Yeah. Whoa, what could go wrong there? Not to mention people end up paying way over market rate because of the interest and all that sort of stuff and how it keeps on going. It's like paying off your credit card, you know, something that was this price, or you see that with other things online and stuff. Oh, you could pay it in 12 payments of $13.99, and then when you do the math, you find out that it's $50 more that way. Yeah. Than if you had just bought it outright.
And you can anticipate. So these are people, in many cases, young families, but people who don't have money for a down payment, but can build in that equity over time, rent to buy. So there's an opportunity there. You have a market in Vancouver, which is particularly Greater Vancouver, Lower Mainland, which is absorption rates have moved down to about 60%. They've sort of averaged on 80% in a normal market. So in other words, there's more condos that are there. We're potentially, because it's a question of the actual transactions when and if they come, providing about 10% of the financing with the federal government for this in a way that can make the transaction work. So it would be buying distressed condos. Of course, the developer is not going to admit that they're going to have distressed condos, right? But we don't care about the developer. We care about the person.
We're just going to use taxpayer money to make sure that they don't fail because they're too big. Yeah, no, we don't care about them at all. I'm just offering them this gift. It's not really going to help with affordable housing for the regular schmucks, but yeah, it's not about the developer. It really isn't. No, it's all about the people.
The family that can potentially move into the home. So buying them at a discount at the right time, financing, terming that out, setting up a rent-to-own structure for truly affordable housing. That's an opportunity. We will look at any opportunity.
Truly affordable housing. Does that include people who, live with disabilities, work minimum wage jobs, can't get another job other than that? Will they be able to afford that housing? Maybe way back when people actually could just work regular jobs and get a home in an actual home, not like a tiny little shoebox of an apartment home.
Across the country that gets more affordable housing to Canadians. Can't do it all, but where we see dislocation, where we see opportunities, where that's the best use of the dollar, we will look at that, and certainly when the province brings that and brings ideas and brings an opportunity in a market where it's there, that makes sense to look at. There's no specific transactions. There's no.
Okay, yeah, that's enough of that. So Badrino says Brookfield is one of the largest corporate real estate corporations in the world. Mark Carney ended remote work for over 300,000 public servants and is actively spending hundreds of millions on new office space. How is this allowed? Yeah, there's this thing going on in the government. Begins with a C, ends with eruption. Think you know where I'm going. Think you know where I'm going with that. Because he's quote tweeting a Toronto Star article that says Mark Carney sidelined from at least 17 government deliberations because of corporate conflicts. Yes. Funny how that works. It's the same thing that I pointed out not too long ago. How Canada and China now are all buddy doing negotiations and stuff like that. And we had an ombudsperson that would help out people from other countries who might have had complaints about Canadian companies in their area, abusing them, torturing them, murdering them, that sort of thing. Usually like mines, like resource extraction, but there were other things. And if you look into it, the ombudsperson was working on some things about the Uyghurs in China being exploited by being under exploitation work conditions. Yep. So that position is no longer going to exist. Funny how that works. Funny how, all of this office space, that's something else that could have been converted into housing as opposed to sitting empty most of the time. But nope, you got to get those public servants back into work, even though a lot of them like working from home or maybe a split of the both and whatnot. No, you got to It's about the real estate agents that own these buildings. You know, how are they going to make money if they're not renting it out as office space? It's about thinking about the people. Not the developers, the people. Well, don't you worry. Don't you worry at all, because you know what? Pierre Poilievre is on it. He is so on it. Uh-huh. This is from CTV News. Poilievre calls for an urgent meeting of ethics committees to investigate BC condo bailout.
It's a move the Carney government insists is about supporting Canadians, not distressed developers.
We don't care about the developer. We care about the person, the family that can potentially move into the home.
But a plan to buy and convert 2,200 unsold condos in British Columbia into affordable rent-to-own units is coming under fire.
We need a full investigation into the Carney condo bailout.
In a new letter to the House of Commons Ethics Committee, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is calling for an urgent meeting to investigate what he calls a plan to bail out developers, bankers, and investors. Speaking with CTV News Sunday, Poilievre says Carney is protecting developers from losses.
Who asked for this?
He's not wrong, but he's only saying this because he's not the one in the position of bailing them out, because make no mistake about it, he would absolutely be doing the same thing as Mark Carney. Only he might not word it as affordable housing. And he might not be making any attempts to even lower the price for people. He would just be bailing them out. Look no further than Ontario, Doug Ford, in the way that he's bailing out condo developers.
Who lobbied for this? And who is benefiting from putting these condo losses on the backs of hardworking taxpayers struggling to make ends meet?
When asked last week, Carney said no developer asked for this from him directly. The Prime Minister stressed there is no specific transaction on the table yet. Few details have been shared about the actual plan.
I don't think we've done, self-included, a particularly good job of rolling this out.
Politics for Pierre Poilievre, because I do think
It is.
I think this is smart politics for Pierre Poilievre, because I do think this file has been badly miscommunicated.
The average Canadian is looking at this and saying, looks like Poilievre's got a point here.
Poilievre argues Carney's plan would only drive housing prices up.
The only time Poilievre has a point is when Mark Carney is doing something that is extremely conservative, and out of reflex, Poilievre is like, well, I have to go against it.
Solution is obvious. Let the condo developers lower the price so that Canadians can afford to buy the condos themselves.
Now, the criticism may already be enough to stop this proposal from going ahead. BC Premier David Eby, who made the announcement alongside the Prime Minister, has said if it proves to be unpopular, it will not move forward.
Great, it's unpopular, so it shouldn't move forward. I think there was just a little bit more in here that I wanted to go. So in a letter to the committee, Poilievre accuses Prime Minister of doing things he would do. Under the Liberals' plan, taxpayers would be on the hook to buy more than 2,200 vacant units in British Columbia. So a press release issued by the Minister Office leverage innovation financing tools to convert more than 22 vacant condos into priority growth areas and into affordable homes. Carney said Thursday the federal government would put up to 10%. Okay, I think, was there something else in here? No, that was it. Okay. Well, this might be a touch, again, a little hypocritical coming from Pierre Poilievre, because you know, he's also in a very unique situation. And again, he's only saying these things because it goes against Mark Carney. If he was in Mark Carney's position, he'd be doing the exact same thing. Because if he really cared about affordable homes, maybe he would get rid of the rental units he owns. And maybe he would stop using taxpayer money to enrich himself. And what do I mean by that? So Dieter here is pointing out, did you know Pierre Poilievre apparently owns a house that he rents out for cash because we pay for his primary residence? Yes, he has multiple rentals, properties that he rents out. But in Ottawa, instead of using his own property to live in, he lives in one that's supplied by the taxpayers, a nice little mansion for him to live in with servants and cooks and all that sort of stuff. And that's on the taxpayer dime. And so he makes money by renting out his unit. But who's paying for that? Well, apparently, oh, by the way, we also pay for the rental cost of his house because one of his MPs live there. Yeah. So we pay for the housing allowance of these MPs. So then that's money that's just going straight back to Pierre Poilievre. Maybe we should investigate some corruption going on there too. So I'm all for let's look into corruption for Mark Carney, but let's also look into corruption for Pierre Poilievre while we're at it. Let's do it all, huh? Let's just do it all. Look into corruption for all politicians. We would clean house that way. We'd have like almost no politicians left. Let's see. But somebody else is just pointing out, there's an alarming tendency to treat affordable housing as bad news story. And they're quote tweeting this Globe and Mail thing saying almost half of Ontario condos are worth less than $500,000 as prices plunge. Good, prices should plunge. Like, that's the thing. That's part of the reason why Mark Carney wants to bail out the Vancouver ones, is because they're worried prices will go down and become more affordable for people. Like, oh gosh, shucks darn that real estate goes down because of shitty building and marketing and all that sort of stuff. Because they don't want affordable housing. They want investments. They want people to be struggling. They want people to be out there willing to work under any conditions just to get by. Well, their investor buddies can buy up properties and make money by swapping it around and laundering their money and all that sort of bullshit. Because again, condos are not homes. They're homes for single people, maybe, who aren't interested in, getting a family or anything of that sort. But even then, you know what? Single people have the right to live in a place that they can actually make feel like a home. Not just some container that they sleep in that barely holds anything that makes that place theirs. Again, I am exceedingly fortunate in my situation, given how long back my rental contract goes. The condos I've seen these days being built, or the apartments even, are a fraction of the size of the buildings that were being built, or the units being built, 20, 30, 40 years ago. And it's kind of like with airplanes, airplanes, you used to have legroom, but they keep on making it smaller and smaller and smaller so that they can cram more people into it. And that's what they're doing with apartment buildings and condos, is they keep on making them smaller and smaller so they can cram more units in there. And in the end, people just don't buy them because they suck. A little bit more on renting, because a journalist asked Minister Diab if a landlord with 14 rental units is a conflict of interest, and the Carney cabinet has acknowledged bias. Not a single one of your cabinet colleagues are currently a renter or a tenant. So somebody is pointing out that, you know what, a lot of our MPs tend to be landlords. None of them are renters. Doesn't this make it a little bit, awkward when talking about, like, when making policies and stuff, that you don't have anyone who's a renter to give in their 2 cents about it? It's just all landlords. And so who are you making the policy for when you have MPs that are landlords, but none that are renters? Then who are you making the policies for?
Hello, Jillian Piper with Global News. Thanks for taking our questions, Minister. Several housing advocates asked for changes to Bill C-20 to give better protection to tenants, including a tenant bill of rights, rights of security of tenor, and so on.
That would be nice.
None of the requests were adopted, and I realize that you're not the housing minister, but you are a landlord with 14 rental units in Canada. Do you ever think that there might be a conflict?
So we have politicians already making a large salary. than also getting a passive income with rental units while people are struggling to afford places to live. See, that's where I call in for the expropriation and just make it socialized housing.
Conflict of interest when tenants groups are asking for more legal protections from landlords like yourself?
Thanks for that. I know it was an exciting...
Yeah, we'd like more protections from you. Why aren't you building that into the laws and policies that you're doing? We would like to have more protections from people like you. That's a good question. I'm glad that got asked of this person. Of course, they don't answer.
Day here today as well as last night. Obviously, when we talk about here today as well as last night, obviously, when we talk about immigration, the challenges that we faced with...
It's immigration. It's the immigrants. I'm not answering a question. I'm just deflecting to immigrants.
Which is why we've reduced the numbers in our levels plan. We're due to shortages of housing and, services that are available. Again, it is something that we will continue to work on with all the provinces and territories. Again, some of the issues you raised are strictly in provincial domain.
Thank you. And just as a follow-up, not a single one of your cabinet colleagues are currently a renter or a tenant. What do you say to those housing advocates who say that the lack of representation around the cabinet table by a renter or tenant introduces an unacknowledged bias when dealing when it comes to federal housing policy, for example?
I can't confirm nor deny your question. I have no idea. What does that...
I don't know. We don't ask those sorts of questions. Damn it. Thank you for the question.
Of any of the colleagues that I have, there's 300 and some members of parliament from across the country, from every region, who sit in the House of Commons. And as far as the ones that represent the Liberal whatever, there's over 170 of them, and there's some of them, so I can't comment on your question because I have no idea what people...
There's no way to know. There's just no way to know.
People's personal status.
Except there's ways to know, and people put out those lists all the time.
Nor, quite frankly, I should.
And if I could just add to the federal minister, I mean, we're only 40 in Newfoundland and Labrador, and at the same, I have no idea
Please let me help deflect from this very awkward question.
Intricate live details of those other 39.
Sure. So I think but you don't think there's any bias when it comes to those in government who are homeowners trying to do housing policy for those who are renters?
I think it's wonderful to have perspectives, and we do our best as parliamentarians to serve Canadians regardless of what the policy issues are.
Thank you.
Yeah, so do you have any bias? I think it's wonderful to have perspectives, not yours, but other perspectives. And I'm not going to answer your question. Thank you. We could be living in a different world. And I get this is on a municipal level, but again, there are things that the housing crisis is a municipal, provincial, and federal issue. And I'm sure it's similar in the states where it's municipal, state, and federal. All of them can be doing stuff to make people's lives easier. All of them. All of them are responsible for the housing crisis. This is something that actually helps. Now, of course, again, I'm that radical, extremely radical lefty. I don't think prices should just be frozen. I think for a lot of people, they need to go down. It's not good enough to just freeze them. They need to go down. But this is a good start. Good start. And so Diana here is just saying we did it. New York City's mayor's rent guideline board just voted to freeze the rent for 2 million New Yorkers in rent-stabilized apartments. This is a huge victory for tenants across our city, including in Astoria and Long Island City. Democrats, socialists deliver for working people. I'd be happy with a rent freeze. My rent is going up next month. Rent frozen, elections won. Yep, we just froze the rent. 2 million people. Suddenly their lives will get a little bit easier. They're not going to be worried as much. They're not going to have to, you know, stress as much. I mean, it'd be nice. It'd be nice. It'd help my stress a lot if my rent could be frozen. Anyway, that's it for that docket. Go and check the SandBox over there. See? Huh? I'm pointing at it right now. I switched around my desktop, so SandBox right there. Let's see. And it's weird because now I see myself in a delay too. Let's see. Grand Theft Autobot. Use it in Sandstorm when reporting on a shitstorm. It's the sand stream in a sandstorm when it's a shitstorm. I get it. I get it. I like it. I like it. Grand Theft Autobot. Oh, Carney needs to debate new Carney. Real John Litham. Does any country besides Canada do the angry thank you? Thank you for your question. I'm not going to answer. I don't know. I don't even know what you mean by the angry thank you. Does any country besides Canada do the angry thank you? Do I do an angry thank you? Thank you for your fucking... No, I don't know. Not entirely sure what you mean by it. Corruption sandwich, says Grand Theft Autobot. The worst kind of sandwich? No, a shit sandwich would be kind of worse, wouldn't it? Not that it's far off. Grand Theft Autobot. Heavens to Megatroid? If rent prices plunge, then the poors will want to move in. Yeah, no, that's good, that's good. Hello, Rusty. Welcome to the SandBox. Oh, Megatroid. I don't know what Megatroid is. And Leah is planning on emailing me for a collab. Okay. Well, thank you everyone for coming out on my non-regular streaming day. No, numbers are kind of low. Although, let's see, where am I at now? I'm at, 10. You know, get me a few dozen more, and I will have more people watching my stream than there are people at the American Fair. On the mall. Oh, Emma sent out a tweet of this one band playing some Jesus song, and there's like nobody in the tent. It's like they're just rehearsing. And then also there's like an American flag hanging up, an Israeli flag hanging up, and yeah. It's... let's see. Grand Theft Autobot. I know in the southern US they say bless your heart to say fuck you. Yeah. Isn't it the UK thing to say and good day to you, sir? To be like, go fuck yourself. We all have our ways of being, you know, passively, aggressively polite. Or no, that's not the right way to say it. Of being, there's a phrase for it, isn't there? Toxic politeness? No, that wouldn't be it. Oh man, what's the word? It's like when people are purposely being incompetent so that they can get out of things. I think it's along that line. Maliciously polite. That's, I think, what I want. We all have our ways of being maliciously polite. And I think Canadians, we nail it the best because we're known for our politeness. And I'm sure if you watch my streams on a regular, you know how fucking polite I am. So for people who are joining a bit late, you know, all 4 of you, If I get a lot of love in the SandBox, and I mean a lot of love, I'll show you the progress that I've been working on my new drawing. I'm a little nervous about it because, I'm only 4 hours in and it's still in the phase where it's like it doesn't look good because it's very scribbly, it's a mess. It doesn't pop because I haven't done the background yet, and the background makes a huge difference. So I'm not sure I'm nailing it. I'm not sure. And so I could use, I would like to know if anyone could actually recognize who it is, because I'm feeling a little like, I don't know if it's there. I don't know if I hit it. And I know the biggest problem I'm working with is that the image I'm using as a reference is not in focus, which is super frustrating because they weren't, the video platform I got it off of wasn't in high def. So annoying. And I was getting too impatient to wait for it to get onto YouTube, where potentially I could get the higher def. But I am curious if anyone can recognize who the person is, or if I should start over. Wait for it to get on YouTube and then start over. Find that exact frame again. Because, I like to zoom into the picture, so I'll have the picture printed out, but then I'll also have it on my phone so I can, enlarge it so that I can get the finer details. But when I enlarge it, all I see is a blurry mess. So I have to kind of intuit some of the details, which, if it's a pet, that's fine. Because it will still end up looking like that pet. But if you're doing a human and you're off by those details a little bit, you get that kind of uncanny, like, yeah, it looks like the person, but it doesn't, Let's see. Grand Theft Autobot Heavens to Megatroid is saying in the Snuggleopolis, Hanna-Barbera cartoon character, popularized back in the 60s, 70s, I think. Huh. Oh, apparently Pornhub is owned by a Zionist, says Rusty. I'll boycott it. I'm not using it. I'm not a porn watcher. Oh, it's Murgatroyd. Murgatroyd? Meh-er-ga-troyd? Mir-ga-troyd. How is me sounding it out phonically working for you, Grand Theft Autobot? Mir-ga-troyd? I'm probably pronouncing it worse. Grand Theft Autobot already boycotts Pornhub. Yeah, okay. Trevor Bourne, some people I can draw, others I can't. I never know until I try. Well, like I did the drawing of Emma, and I don't feel like I nailed it. And sometimes it's just the image that I'm working from just isn't the right image. And then I was worried because I did one of Michael Brooks not too long ago for myself, and I was feeling like it looks like him, sure, but I don't feel like I nailed it. And then I did one of Ole, and I'm like, oh, that one nailed it. So yeah, Murgatroyd. Gah. Is that better? Murgatroyd? Gah? I am pronouncing it worse. Okay, good. That's yeah. I tried to help, yeah. Murgatroyd. Gah. That's what you get when you put things in phonically and think I understand what your phonics are. You see, if I heard it, I would then type into something, how I hear it, and how I would spell it phonically. Because normally when I spell things phonically, it's pretty, people can guess what I'm saying, because I have often done this with friends where I text them saying, how do you spell, whatever word it is. knowing I'm spelling it wrong. But then every time they reply back with the right word. But that's quite the thing when it's like I'm texting, how do you spell, oh, what's a word that I always get wrong? That wouldn't, so it has to be a word that I get wrong, and spell check doesn't understand what I'm trying to say. There was a word recently in my document that I was going for. Where is it? Where is it? Oh, I don't even think I ended up using it after I had to do research. No, appropriately. My spell check, not having it. Couldn't spell appropriately, not even close. So that's something that I would text to someone being like, how do you spell appropriately? But I would do it as I hear it or say it, and they would get back to me. They would know what word that I'm talking about. But I do find if spell check in Word or in text and stuff aren't working, I go to Google. Google does a better job of understanding what you're trying to say. Oh, apparently I nailed it, but the "ga" at the end just was not supposed to be there. I don't care. It's now part of it. That's what you get. That's what you get when it's all caps. Reminds me when I was tutoring English to refugees, because normally when I would tutor English, it was to newcomers, like students and stuff, people who already had knowledge of English. Like they already had a working sense of English, they could speak English, but they were working on things like context or phrases or specific words and things of that sort. But then when I was tutoring refugees, they had no working knowledge of English, none whatsoever. And so I would learn very quickly some of the verbal tics that I have, because I'd be like, so we have to, but then they would think that the so and we are one word. So I'd have to drop saying so all the time, or even just some ums and ers and whatnot, because if it was too close to the word, they would think it's part of the word. And other little tics that you might say, or you don't separate your words properly. So yeah, that's a challenge, because I don't know how to tutor English to people who just didn't have a working knowledge of English at all. I ended up going to like Dollarama and getting workbooks for kids from like kindergarten stuff, where you draw out the letters and things of that sort, because they were Arabic, they were from Syria, so they were speaking Arabic and whatnot. And so very different, not even the same alphabet and whatnot. So they would have to learn just how to draw the letters and whatnot. So those little workbooks for kindergarten grade 1 were helpful. And then I could point to a picture of an animal or something, or a color and whatnot. Anyway. Rusty is recently into abstract art. And Trevor Bournes never does anything too realistic. My stuff is more cartoony. I wish I could do cartoony drawings. I'd love to do some comic books. I have some idea for comic books. I can't do it, though. Can't do it. Anyway, why don't we get back into the news? Again, I don't want to be spending 5 hours doing this. If I can make this a short stream, short by like 3 hours, that I would like that, so that I can have dinner a little bit earlier. So that if I make cooking that makes me sick, I'll be sick earlier in the evening and hopefully still get a decent night's rest. I stopped eating just on time, I think. Because sometimes I can get the sense, oh, I'm going to get sick if I keep on eating, but it's really good. And then I keep on eating and I'm like, okay, so now I'm going to be sick. So I did manage to cut myself off last night, before I got to the point where it's like, okay, I'm going to make myself sick. But part of my frustration is that food is just going to go to waste, because it's not food you can just put in the fridge and eat later. It's when you cook it, you kind of have to eat it type thing. So yeah. Anyway, let's get on to it. So actually, a lot of you might not have heard about the shooting that happened in Montreal. It wasn't a big shooting. It wasn't, like a mass shooting per se. at least not on the scope that we would normally hear in the news, but it did pick up some traction because one of the victims in the shooting was a police officer. And those ones tend to get a little bit more attention. And so I think 2 people plus the shooter died in it. The shooter was, get this, a young white man who went to Montreal, but he was actually from Alberta. And there was a manifesto. And the manifesto kind of revealed this boy's an incel. So right away, right-wingers, what they love to do these days is as soon as there's a mass shooting of any sort, they'll be like, oh, the person was trans, before they know anything. And they keep on doing that. It's kind of like, if you keep on rolling dice and you keep on saying snake eyes, snake eyes, snake eyes every time you roll it, eventually you will hit it. Eventually you'll be right. And that's when you get to say, I was right. But you weren't right all the other 99 times it was rolled. And so now, with the way the world is right now, it's not just suddenly jumping to the conclusion that the person was trans. There's also a group of people who will be like, oh, this was an anti-Semitic attack based on no evidence, just none, just putting it out there. And the thing is that a lot of people, especially people who might watch their stuff, they'll hear the first part. They'll never hear the correction. And when they state it like fact, it's harder to break through that noise or to convince people, no, it's something else. So a little bit about the shooting that happened. There we go. There we go. Oh, I can actually put my Word docs in there. Interesting. There we go. So, from CBC, Montreal shooting leads to national security investigation on ideological violence. And they don't mean trans ideology. They don't mean anti-Semitic either. It's incel violence. So a group of women hold protests against incel ideology. Police release no details on shooter's suspected motive. Now, everything is still open for interpretation and stuff, but the person did release a manifesto, and in it, sure, the police could, in their investigation, find out it was something completely different, but going on the manifesto, there's strong indications that this guy was an incel. So a specialized national security unit within the RCMP has opened an investigation into ideologically motivated violent extremism after Monday's midday shooting, so that's Monday last week, in Montreal that left 3 people dead, including a police officer and a bystander. In an email Thursday, the RCMP said branches of its integrated national security enforcement team in Eastern Canada and in the Northwest region are working together on a case that is separate from the murder investigation led by Quebec Provincial Police. These RCMP enforcement teams target terrorist groups or people who threaten national security. As this is an ongoing investigation for now, we do not have any more information to share, RCMP Constable Marie-Pierre Gertin said. That's a French name, so probably just Guitin. I don't know. English is messed up with how the printed word doesn't sound like the actual verbal word. French is a hell of a lot worse. So, for all I know, the only letter pronounced in that word is E. Pierre E. said. While neither the RCMP nor Quebec's provincial police have publicly released details about the suspected motive behind Monday's shooting, the Canadian press has reviewed a manifesto written by the alleged gunman that expressed hatred toward women and called for violence. Investigating target of attack. A federal office said police from various jurisdictions are investigating whether the attack targeted police officers and the online pornography company Pornhub, and whether any conclusions can be drawn from the manifesto. The shooting took place right outside of Pornhub, and I think there was things in the manifesto about it. The Canadian press is not naming the official because they were not authorized to publicly discuss the matter. The alleged gunman, a 25-year-old from Lethbridge, Alberta, exchanged gunfire with police outside a hotel in the city's Côte de Neige neighborhood across from Montreal office for Alo, owner of adult entertainment brands including Pornhub. The Quebec coroner identified 2 people killed. Police officer Mohamed Lamine, that name, 34, and Michel, this person, 68, a well-known member of Montreal's Jewish community, who was a bystander during the shooting. The alleged gunman died in the exchange of gunfire with police. So some people are saying that since one of the victims was Jewish, this was an anti-Semitic attack, as opposed to an anti-police attack, as opposed to an anti-adult entertainment attack. It's just a bystander was shot and tragically died, who happened to be Jewish. The police officer, not Jewish. Provincial police are leading the criminal investigation into the shooting. The province's independent police watchdog is examining the officer's intervention as required whenever someone dies during a police operation. Speaking at a news conference Thursday, Prime Minister Mark Carney, sorry, my dyslexia was acting up and I was seeing Clark there for some reason, said he was receiving updates on the criminal investigation. It is not for me to confirm specific aspects of that investigation, he said. I leave those to relevant authorities who make these decisions. Protests against incel ideology. Meanwhile, people gathered in Montreal on Thursday evening to protest against so-called incel ideology. Incel stands for involuntary celibate, or just most single people these days, I think. A term for an internet subculture dominated largely by men who blame women and social structures for their lack of sexual or romantic relationships. Activist Celeste Trenon said the protest would begin at the memorial for the 1989 Polytech massacre, during which a gunman motivated by hatred for feminism killed 14 women at an engineering university in Montreal. So that, just the location, this guy traveled all the way to Montreal, near where another massive mass murder here in Canada happened, where it was explicitly the gunman was targeting women. Yeah, let's watch the video. I haven't watched the video. Let's watch this little video. It's not too long. Anti-incel protest in Montreal denounces misogyny after fatal midday shooting.
A lot of people are not feeling well.
Activist Celeste Trianon says people are still living in fear following Monday's shooting. She says many people are also disturbed to know that police found a manifesto allegedly written by the suspect that expressed misogynistic beliefs. Trianon says that's what pushed organizers to gather, hoping the rally would spark a broader conversation about violence against women.
Misogyny is the underlying thread, and I fear that we're just too afraid of naming that fact. Naming the fact that misogyny kills people, it still kills.
Because when we mention things like this online, if a woman says misogyny is responsible for anything, yeah, misogyny ensues.
Every day.
The motive of the shooting is still unknown, but the alleged gunman expressed a wide variety of beliefs in his manifesto, including anti-government and anti-capitalist views, as well as ideas associated with the involuntary celibate or incel movement, which is known for its often violent expressions of misogyny.
People think that misogyny is done and it's in the past, etc.
Naima Seguin-Melasco was at the protest with her friends. She says it was important for her to join the gathering to speak up against all forms of violence.
Did I get a ploppy raid? Why, thank you so much. Welcome, Pond Jumpers. We're talking about a shooting that happened here in Canada. Most likely, they don't know for sure, but it's looking like, it was an incel who did it, based on the manifesto. Rusty Ploppy is Kevin Logan. You can go check out his channel, Cross the Pond, if you're interested in UK politics. But welcome, Pond Jumpers. Appreciate it. Like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Yeah, we're just talking about a shooting that happened last week.
violence, especially online.
But we know that in our generation, with all the social media, misogyny is coming back.
Seguin Merasco says the protest is also about education. She hopes the rally will help raise awareness about online radicalization.
No autoplay. Back to the article. The demonstration is intended to spark a broader conversation about misogyny, violence against women, and the online radicalization of some young men, she said. I'm scared, but I don't have a choice. I have to protest. Trenon's... Oh, man, she just said her name too. Or the report did. Anyway, she said she and 3 other women organized the protest within hours of the shooting. There was a manifesto that literally said, "Kill them all," she said. She referred to the final page of the manifesto in which the author calls on the dispossessed to eradicate unnamed scum and enemies. Leah Clermont-Dion, a Concordia University associate education professor whose research focuses on anti-feminist movements, said the document written by the alleged gunman reflects ideas commonly associated with incel ideology. It's clear to me that this man would be considered an incel even if he doesn't mention the term, Clermont-Dion said. The ideology has been linked to several acts of violence in Canada, including the 2018 Toronto van attack that killed 10 people and a 2020 Toronto killing that was later ruled by a judge to be an act of terrorism motivated by incel ideology. Trenon said organizers chose to gather at the Polytechnique Memorial because they believe Monday's shooting serves as a reminder that violence fueled by hatred of women remains a threat. Monday's shooting could have been another Polytechnique, Trianon said. It was pure luck that no women were killed. The protest has generated hundreds of reactions on her Facebook page advertising the events. The posts argued that since no woman died during Monday's shooting, the protest did not have a purpose. That was the misogyny earlier that I was talking about, that if you go online as a woman and say anything about misogyny ensues. And it's like, well, how? How can he be an incel? How can it be motivated by hatred of women when no women were shot? Huh? Oh, he was shot before he had a chance? Okay. So Trianon said these responses have only reinforced her belief that the protest is necessary. Yeah. So a little bit more on this. Men assured of best World Cup finish after beating South Africa. Oh, okay. Cool. Oh, did you want to come up? Did you want to come up? Are you going to come up? There we go. Abernathy wants to say hi. Say hi. There we go. Are you going to do your air muffins? Here we go. We're talking about a really serious subject here. Really serious. Mm-hmm. Oh, there we go. There we go. Super serious subject. He's been shedding like crazy right now with the fans blowing. I'm just getting like a ton of cat fur on my face. Sticking to my makeup. Okay, you gotta go. You gotta go. Go. There you go. Ah. Come on. I need like a lint brush for my face now. Ugh. Okay, back to the story. So neighbor shaken after police search Alberta apartment linked to Montreal shooting. So as was said earlier, the shooter was from Lethbridge, Alberta, who traveled all the way over to Quebec for this.
People on the west side of Lethbridge say police activity around their complex earlier this week has been shocking. The investigation took place just days after a man who lived in the complex was linked to a shooting in Montreal, which left a police officer and a bystander dead. Lethbridge police searched a unit on Lemoyne Crescent for hours. Neighbor Annika Miedema left early that morning before officers arrived and came home to the scene.
There were police everywhere, like the bomb squad.
Miedema says she didn't know the accused resident, 25-year-old Seth Scott Hatfield, who was a student at the University of Lethbridge.
He wasn't very approachable, kind of kept to himself, really.
As details of the case continue to come to light, Miedema says it's unsettling to have lived so close by.
Walking here alone sometimes, it's kind of scary, because if he was still here, what could have happened?
Miedema says this case is a reminder that people often know so little about those living around them and what is really happening behind closed doors.
You kind of think like, oh, you don't really know your neighbors that well, so anything could be happening.
Lethbridge police cleared out of the complex late Tuesday night. The vehicles and lines of caution tape are now gone. They have not released any information, other than they were conducting a high-risk search and are assisting Quebec authorities in the investigation. Zoe Lukolich, Global News.
I don't think there was anything else in the article I wanted to get to. I just kind of wanted to point out, when we all say, like, there's that phrase, like, not all men, but yes, every woman type thing. The reality is, we've all met that man. We've all come across him. We've known him in life. He's been a neighbor. He's been a coworker. He's been a classmate. That's why it's so scary for women or people who present as women, is that it could literally be anyone. And all of us have known that man at some point in our lives. Even without like being the victim of one, all of us, all the good men watching this right now, you've had a coworker, a friend, a family member, a neighbor who's been that man. It's so prevalent. And I think a lot of people, they go about their lives. It's like, oh, I just would never imagine. Like, there's nobody in my life, but they're very good at hiding. There's been stories that have come out, and I knew people who knew them type thing, and they're like, but they were just so nice. They were so great. They were so this and that and the other thing. Yeah, they know how to blend in. They're chameleon predators. They know how to not draw attention to themselves for the wrong reasons and whatnot. But it's super, super pervasive. And I just kind of wanted to touch on that with that article. But this is also kind of like, it's sad that this has to be asked. And I always feel this way whenever you see murders of people or the death of people online. Like there's YouTube snuff videos and stuff like that. How about you don't share that sort of thing? Because here we have from CTV News, sister of slain Montreal police officer asked people to stop sharing videos of his final moments. Yeah, there could be people in his family, his kids, I think it says his kids actually, who might end up growing up and seeing this. And I saw a documentary on 9/11 and some of the children of the victims of 9/11, and they were saying how, watching the footage of it alone was traumatic because every time they saw the plane going into the tower, they were seeing their parent die. And I think a lot of people who just post this stuff online, they don't think of the deeper consequences of this. They don't think of them as people. It's entertainment. It's dark, grotesque entertainment that people will post like, oh, look at this video of this person dying. So the sister of Montreal police officer killed in the line of duty this week's shooting is calling on people to stop sharing videos online of his final moments. Lena, don't know how to say that name, broke her silence in a Facebook post on Friday, pleading with people to report videos showing her brother's killing. Officer Mohamed Lamin, that name, 34, was killed responding to a report of a gunman that was in Montreal. And so there was the civilian, a 68-year-old Michael Merzara, and the alleged shooter, 25-year-old, who were also killed. As well as his family, Mohammed left behind a pregnant wife and 3-year-old son. I wouldn't want my nephews to come across these videos in 5 or 10 years' time, showing how their father was brutally shot dead, the police officer's sister wrote in the post. I have respect for his memory, for his family, and for his children. Please help have these videos taken down. Montreal police have urged people to share Montreal police have also urged people not to share graphic videos of the deadly shooting out of respect for the victims. Le Man had been an officer with the Montreal Police Services since 2021. His death is a great loss for our organization. His sense of duty, his dedication, and the professionalism will always remain forever in our memories, the police said in a statement the night of the shooting. On Thursday, Montreal police confirmed they will hold a civic funeral for him. Let's just see. Yeah. So that's what I wanted to get to with that. But here we have, again, people taking this, and it's grotesque. Like, it's grotesque sharing the video of his death out of, just for entertainment's sake. But it's also grotesque to be like, here's a shooting. I'm immediately going to use this as a culture war thing, or to usurp it, to make it into something to fit my ideology, my commentary, to make it about me and my issues and stuff like that. So Nora here is just saying an anti-Zionist propaganda machine goes brr, because Jesse Brown, who is the editor and publisher of Canada Land, a once known progressive magazine until he came out as a raging fucking Zionist. You know, just pro-slaughter of innocent babies, extremely Islamophobic. He was on, what was it, CNN not too long ago, just saying there's too many Muslims here in Canada and all that sort of stuff. Just a horrible shit human being. And he says, yes, the Montreal killer was an anti-Zionist because one of the victims, a bystander, not somebody who was targeted, was killed. He was also a misogynist, which tracks with the media reports of him being an incel, but they left out his rants against the Judeo-bourgeoisie class. Why did they hide this? They had his manifesto yesterday. Nah, he was an incel. That is what most of the evidence is pointing to. There might have been other motivations involved. There might have been other reasons, like he was mentally unwell, all of that sort of stuff. But to instantly just use this tragedy as an example of why you're under attack, come on. So Jeremy Apple tweeted this out. Pornhub has more journalistic credibility than Jesse Brown. Why? Because Pornhub will not speculate on alleged Montreal shooters targeting its offices. So yes, Jesse Brown is jumping to conclusions before the final report is out. To be fair, so am I, by mentioning he's an incel. But let's just say there's more evidence pointing towards that. Also, I'm a content creator. I get to make hot takes. Don't believe anything I say. Double check all of my information. I try my best. But Pornhub is just saying, let the police do their job. Well, somebody who owns a magazine, Canada Land, who's the editor and publisher of this outlet, is saying, nope, this guy was he was an anti-Zionist. Which I pose is not a bad thing, to be anti-Zionist. Of course, I don't want to see violence of any sort. But, you know, being anti-Zionist in and of itself is not necessarily a bad thing. I'm just saying. But here's the article. Pornhub will not speculate on alleged Montreal shooter targeting its offices. So, somebody was mentioning that the owner is a Zionist, but I get the feeling it's more about the porn element, especially connect that with the incel element, than it was who the owner was specifically. ILO, the company that owns pornography company Pornhub, does not want to offer any comment on possible connection with the alleged Montreal shooter. In the aftermath of the shooting, the windows of the building that housed ILO's headquarters were visibly broken. The Montreal Gazette reported the man allegedly responsible for the fatal shootout on Monday wrote a manifesto aiming, among other things, to create a new order that would curtail the sexual freedoms of women. The alleged shooter's manifesto, specifically targeting the headquarters of international pornography companies, reported The Guardian. In an email to the National Post on Tuesday, ILO acknowledged the media reports discussing a possible connection to Pornhub. However, the company said, since the investigation remains ongoing, we will not speculate on the motive or shared unconfirmed information. Instead, the company wrote that it wants to express our deepest condolences to the family and loved ones of the police officer, as well as to the Montreal Police Service and everyone affected by the horrific tragedy. The safety of our community is our highest priority, whether that be our dedicated employees, our online community, or the city of Montreal, which a large part of our team proudly calls home. Though our city was struck by tragedy, we want to express gratitude for the first responders who bravely protected us and ensured that none of our employees were physically harmed. So the alleged shooter pointed to pornography companies as part of the modern capitalistic state responsible for creating a hypergamy state, which women are enabled to favor a plethora of attractive males rather than being bound legalistically and culturally to just one. You see, it's things like that that make me lean towards this guy being an incel versus he was targeting anyone based on their religion. Because again, the police officer, Muhammad, not Jewish. But here's an article from Cult Magazine who actually goes into the right-wing ideology and shooters in a little bit more detail that I thought was interesting. So right-wing rage bait got everything wrong about the Montreal shooting. Don't expect conservatives to take responsibility for the incels that they radicalize. And we see this all the time. As soon as there's a mass shooting and stuff, if the mass shooter's manifesto or it comes out that they were a fan of a right-winger or stuff like that, they will all immediately back up and be like, oh, it's not my fault and blah, 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 without acknowledging how they actually did indeed play a part in radicalizing that person. But they all want to deny responsibility in the stochastic terrorism that they spread. That's what they do. They know they're doing that. They're spreading stochastic terrorism, and as soon as somebody acts out on it, they're like, not it. Monday's shooting in Montreal is indicative of a problem that Canada's right wing doesn't want to talk about: the psychopathic hatred of women. According to La Presse, police suspect the shooter was targeting the head office of Pornhub, not Montreal's Jewish community. Unfortunately, too many pundits and right-wing influencers jumped to conclusions. The Toronto Sun published an editorial that wondered whether Jews were the target. Concordia University professor Gad Saad made similar insinuations, saying, "I warned the world repeatedly." Saad isn't known for being a gun control advocate, but for coining the term suicidal empathy and for recently stating he's leaving Canada for the United States because of what he perceives to be rising anti-Semitism. He's a Zionist. As a conservative influencer, he has testified against trans rights, wokeism, and other manifestations of human decency. Right-wing rage farming has radicalized countless violent young men, including the mass murders who committed the 2017 Quebec mass shooting and the 2018 Toronto van attack. Misogyny is a cornerstone in the global conservative movement and has a home in Canada's Conservative Party, as do racism, homophobia, and transphobia. Pierre Poilievre peppers his own rhetoric with racist dog whistles associated with far-right figureheads like Jordan Peterson, and called off an internal investigation into the use of misogynistic social media tags that promoted his videos online. Yeah, just the rhetoric of the Conservative Party. Did you know that before Pierre Poilievre was leader, the last one, Aaron O'Toole, when he was running for leadership, or when there was a federal election, the Conservative campaign slogan was, "Secure the future." Just saying, it might be part of the brand. Some have pointed to the fact that the killer quoted Karl Marx to suggest he was a Marxist, but Marx argued in favor of women's liberation and against gender inequality. Don't let anyone fool you. Incel ideology is incompatible with progressive politics. Monday's shooting spree occurred in the same Montreal borough as Canada's worst single incident of femicide, the Polytechnique massacre. Marc Le Pen created a list of prominent women he wanted to kill and yelled, "You're all feminists," before beginning his 1989 rampage. It's worth noting that Canadian Conservative rejects all the progress Canada has made on gun control efforts that started after the Polytechnique mass femicide. The killer, once again, is a white man. Reports indicate that he's from Alberta. He sent violent anti-feminist manifesto to local media and was apparently an adherent of incel ideology. The victims, once again, are exactly the people the far right blames for their troubles, a woman and people of immigrant backgrounds. Constable Mohammed Lemon, don't know how to say his name, and Michael lost their lives because Canada's right wing won't address the hateful rhetoric they traffic in. Yeah. And if you try talking about this online, like on Twitter or something of that sort, as the one woman in this video here said that we showed earlier, it just kind of backs up the idea that it is a problem. So this is from Rebel News. Ezra Levant reposted this. So this is an absolute right-wing rag. And I wanted to point this one out. We're not going to read the whole thing because we have here Jesse Brown saying, "Oh, anti-Zionist." But we have Rebel News saying, "The manifesto reveals a radical revolutionary communist who expressed deep hatred not just towards women, but towards all of humanity." So another right-wing outlet not taking any responsibility for their influence over people like the shooter, instead trying to blame communists. Anti-Zionists and communists, like those could be the same thing, but not responsible for the rise of hateful rhetoric online and violence. And it's also, we see a lot of this too when there's mass shootings and accusing the left wing of being the violent ones. When we all talk about, we want socialized housing, healthcare for everyone, equal rights, the freedom to live your life as who you are. But apparently somewhere in our ideology, we're the violent ones. I made a video and I talked a lot about that after Charlie Kirk was assassinated. You can go check out that video. I published it a month after the assassination. I feel like it was a really good video that's gotten, criminally underviewed. Where I talk about that a bit more, how, we're constantly the ones being accused of the violence. But where in our rhetoric is it? What can anyone point to in our rhetoric that would encourage violence. And calling a Nazi is not encouraging violence. That's just calling, a spade type thing. Because if we go back, again, this is nothing new. And so Rebel News was saying, it's the communists, it's all this, it's not us. But 7 years ago, video shows accused New Brunswick mass shooter praising Rebel Media's anti-Muslim coverage. Accused mass shooter suggested his most trusted source for news was Ezra Levant's far-right Rebel Media website. Who? Him. Ezra Levant quote-tweeted his Rebel News article. Also, yeah. Again, this is an article that's a lot older, so I'm not going to read through it, but I will toss it into the SandBox for people. So we have someone who praised Rebel Media saying, ain't us. And this Culture magazine saying, yeah, it's them. It's them that they try to deny. Moving on. I just thought that this was an interesting thread on this topic. I don't know who this person is, but what they said resonated with me. So after the Isla Vista killings by Elliot Rodger, another incel who killed, if we go over here, was responsible for 6 deaths, I believe. Motive was misogyny. Incel, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah, 6 victims. And this happened back in 2014. And a lot of current incel shooters will harken back to that guy to be, as he was inspiration for their actions. So after the Isla Vista killings by Elliot Rodger, now widely known as an attack on women, there was pressure from politicians and the media to blame anything other than misogyny for Rodger's actions. You can still find some of those tweets. Jessica Valenti wrote in The Guardian that it was Rodger's own mix of frustration, isolation, and mental illness that caused the shooting, not anything he learned from society, aka misogyny. What all these people share is the forceful rejection of the diagnosis of misogyny in the case of Rodger. Well, it is undoubtedly the link between Rodger Missani and the Montreal shooter. There is the same effort to deny its role in order to promote one's own pet cause. Hence Rebel News and Jesse Brown. Jesse Brown is one of the most obvious examples. He's been trying to argue the shooter was anti-Zionist to bolster his argument that anti-Zionism is violent and didn't even list misogyny as a cause. The Rebel News is claiming the guy was a far-left communist. Misogyny is nonpartisan. Its adherents aren't able to draw on a wide swath of political ideas from both the left and the right. Hitler bemoaned capitalism, National Socialist, because of the degeneracy it wrought on reinforced it once in power. In Canada, femicide is out of control. Every 2.5 days, a woman or girl is violently murdered. On top of this is an ongoing genocide against Two-Spirit and Indigenous women continues under the guise of reconciliation. So if you are not placing gender at the center of an analysis, the Montreal shooting, you are seeking to piggyback on tragedy. So Nora also had a good article on the shooting in particular. Do I get to read it? Do I get to read it? Here, I'll toss this into the SandBox. Yeah, she was the one that was commenting on this. So if you would like to read Nora's article on it, here you go. Anyway, that is it for that. Got one more docket to go. Going to talk about racism in the police. And some queer news. Not good news. When is it ever? But before that, we'll go and check the SandBox. This one over here. Okay. Let's do this. A-B-E-R-N-A-P-B-I-E. Abernathy. There we go. Took me a while to figure out how I wanted to spell his name. Grand Theft Autobot saying, yeah, my Loki is shedding like crazy too. I think if we gathered up all of his fur, we could probably make another cat by smooshing it all together. Yeah. I've never had a cat shed as much as Abernathy. It could be because he's a Bengal mix, but oh my God, he sheds like crazy. I've had long fur cats that were nowhere near as bad as this one. It's just constant. I can brush him like every day when it's this time of year, and constant fur coming out of that cat. Hello, Bee Cat. Welcome to the SandBox. Hello, Ruth Guthrie. Not sure I've seen you in here before. Welcome. Rusty, what is snuff? Is that deplorable stuff? Oh, a snuff video is a video of somebody dying or murdered. Okay, well, everyone else answered that too, so. And there's a lot of, I don't know if there still is because YouTube might have censored it, but there was a lot of that on YouTube at one point. Rusty saying anti-Zionists are against violence. Mm-hmm. B-Cat, they are definitely victims first. Most abusers are. Yeah. I do agree incels need help, Rusty. But, nothing justifies going out and killing others. Hello, Bobby. Soul Life, welcome. Looney Tunes, so we got some mods in the house. Atticus Among Us. Let's see. Whoops. Atticus Among Us, Rainbow Communism. Mm-hmm. And let's see, do this. There we go. And thank you, True Democratic North, for the 149 super chat. Really appreciate it. And the hot dog? The hot dog is a very summer food. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for all the wonderful support you always give me. Let's get back to, where was I? Over here. Over there. There we go. Oops. Hello, Devil's Advocate. Welcome to the SandBox. Let's see. True Democratic North, I need to drink. It's too hot. Yeah, I'm very grateful I have air conditioning in this place. And I still have 2 fans on me because the air conditioning just stays in one area unless you have it, you know, circling around and all that sort of stuff. Hello, Marina. Hi, I've been watching you for the last couple of days from the UK. You're awesome. Why, thank you. And thank you for coming into the SandBox. I super appreciate it. I generally do news live streams Sunday evenings, evening for me, probably past bedtime for most pond jumpers. But yeah, you can always watch the show afterwards too. I do talk about international news, but from usually a Canadian perspective, but sometimes if there's a lot of UK news I've been covering because it's just important issues. I also talk about queer issues, trans issues, because I am pansexual and non-binary, polyamorous as well. So yeah, all of that. And I live with poverty and disabilities, so I generally add that angle to my analysis as well. Let's see. Yeah, and so this week I was working on a drawing. Again, I need to see some love or some interest in seeing this drawing before I put it up for people to see, because I'm nervous about it. Because it's still in the beginning stages and it's scribbly. So I don't feel like I've hit it yet. It doesn't look good yet, to me anyway. But I'm curious to know if it's actually looking like the person that I'm drawing. So I need some love in the SandBox that you really want to see this work in progress, because I'm being vulnerable here. Normally, I'm a lot more confident about my artwork, but when it comes to a portrait of a person, I can be a little bit more, I don't know. But if people can identify this person, then I'll feel a little bit better about it. But for those of you who don't know, like, that's my drawing. I drew this just to kind of give you a scale of my drawing. But this isn't a drawing quite like that. That's a hyper realistic. I'm working on a photorealistic, and a photorealistic is a 9x12 drawing. That's an 11x14 drawing. And so it's not quite as detailed. And part of the problem I'm dealing with is the reference photo I'm using. I really like the expression. I like the lighting. It's not high definition. The photo I'm working from, if you zoom into it, you don't get to see the details, which I love working on. And so I'm trying to have to imagine that. And so I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I'm nailing it yet. And like I said, it's still in the scribbly phase. And when it's in the scribbly phase, it doesn't necessarily look good. It doesn't pop, especially not before I put in the background and a lot more detail, because I've only been working on it for like 4 hours. Okay, so we are getting some people who are interested. Okay. Like I said, I'm feeling kind of vulnerable with this one. I don't know if I'm nailing it. Do not know. I might start over. This person normally will eventually post these videos on YouTube, which I can then get the potentially a higher definition image. So if it sucks, I might start over. Here we go. Can you recognize who this is? Like I said, the background will change this a lot. Once I put in the background, it will really, really change what that looks like. I'll see if anyone recognizes that person. If nobody guesses, I'm not going to tell you who it is. Oh, okay. Everyone got it. Oh. Marina, I thought your gorgeous kitty cat was a photo. No? You can go to my website, sandylovis.com, to check out more of my artwork. I've also done a photorealistic drawing of Owen Jones. No, not photorealistic. Hyper-realistic drawing of Owen Jones. In which, if you zoom into it, you can see his pores. Okay, okay. People know who he is. It's going to look a lot better once I put in the background. The background is dark, so that will help. And because again, it's in the scribbly phase, when I start blending and smudging out the shading, it changes it a lot. It's going to look a lot better. That's what I'm saying. It's going to look a lot better than what it is. But I found that screen grab and I'm like, I really like this one. Because I had 2 other screen grabs I was thinking of working from. The first one, it was an interesting expression from an artistic point of view, because I like expressions where you can project your own emotions into it. But I realized if I didn't like nail it, it could have been a little offensive. Like it wasn't a flattering expression. So then I found another expression. I'm like, okay, yeah, this one is good. The lighting is good. It was in a high definition video, so that was good. The background was nice and dark. The face was well lit, but I wanted one with wrinkles. Wrinkles up on his forehead. When I draw people, I don't necessarily want to draw a picture perfect face. I like a face with character. That sort of thing. Let's see. If I do this, I'll open. Let's see. Art. Here we go. Since we have some pawn jumpers in here, there we go. Should be able, where is it? Where is it over here? No, not that one, not that one. There we go. That's the hyper-realistic drawing of Owen Jones. Yeah. That was the longest drawing time that I did on that one. I know, Looney Tunes, you hate the eyes because they kind of stare right into your soul. Let's go back to there, and then I'll bring that back up. No, dish. There we go. There we go. Yeah, I wasn't kidding. But I like working on hyper-realistic ones, but drawing an animal in hyper-realistic is better, because actually, why don't I do that? Bring up open. Where is my thumper? There we go. Let's go back. Yeah, that's the drawing over my shoulder. And I love working on the small details. And the nice thing about an animal is there's room for mistake. There's a margin of error that is far greater than if you're drawing a human. Because if you're drawing a human and you're off by just a millimeter, and it's a hyper-realistic drawing, it will look odd. Like if you didn't know who the person was, it would look great. But if you know who the person was and it isn't like, I mean, nailed, it will look slightly off, a little weird. But with animals, there's a lot more wiggle room. And I like working on these extremely up-close details. And this is pixelated because, it is an image online versus what's over my shoulder. So even here, you can't necessarily appreciate the detail the same way you would if you were seeing the actual drawing. Anyway, I love showing off my artwork. Should probably get back to the news. That's what you're here for. You're not here for me to show off my artwork. That's for my other YouTube channel, Sandy Lovis, which I really need to put something on this week. Again, that's a very new channel I started, but I haven't been able to focus on it because I've been working on TYT essays that have been way too long in the making, and I started working on them again. And that takes my focus. And so I haven't been able to like make clips of my live streams or work on my other art channel. So my Sandy Lovis channel is about art writing and all things creative, because I also wrote a book. It's loaded with my political and social commentary. You can buy it now, and it'll be a collector's edition, because when I publish my TYT video essays, I'm going to have an updated edition done, a new edition. So buy it now and then buy it again after the new edition is out. What can I say? Then you'll have a collector's item, but then you also have an up-to-date version. Looney Tunes. Sandy, I never said that. Oh, was that Soul Life? Soul Life is the ones. Sorry, Looney, not you. Soul Life is afraid those eyes will steal his soul. Yeah, I've done 3 drawings of Sam. That's a whole story. He was what started me back into my art. The first drawing I did was of him when I rediscovered my talent for art. And I look at that drawing now, and it's like, yeah, sure, it's good. People can recognize it's Sam, all that sort of stuff. But it looks like I did it in fucking crayon compared to what I do now. Like the ability, my talent in the past, like this is 5 years worth of drawing, has just gone in such a way, like I was never this good, even when I was good at art. Bobby, he looked like a young Mehdi Hassan. Well, he'll look older once his gray hair becomes more obvious. And the wrinkles are a little bit more obvious in the drawing. Let's see. Anyway, we should probably get back to it, but yeah, my brain is all over the place. ADHD for the win as a live streamer. Ooh, yeah. You get a neurodivergent person live streaming, but then again, I would imagine most people live streaming are neurodivergent in some way. Some more so than others, unless they are script readers. Like, unless they are just doing it for the money, those ones I probably think are a little bit more neurotypical. But to put yourself on the line like this, you gotta be a little crazy, huh? But I do hope on just transferring. Right now, I'll be transferring over some of my art videos from my political channel, this one, to my Sandy Lovis one. So I won't be putting any new content on my Sandy Lovis channel per se, although I am hoping to put a video up there soon just talking about all the paintings that I did recently for Pride. So there's that. Anyway, let's get back to it. I have one more docket. Yeah, I just have one more docket to get through, and then we can shoot the shit if we like. So let's get back to it. Going to be talking about racism and police officers. Could there be such a connection? The pond jumpers are looking at me like. Well, here in Canada too. It's not just you. There we go. So Katvia had tweeted out, Montreal police pepper sprayed multiple people, including a black man in his 70s, over a noise complaint related to the family matriarch's 74th birthday party. If it was in the States, they'd probably be dead. That said, when it comes to police-involved shootings, the United States, is the worst by far. We all know that. We all know that. But here's a little trick. If you take out the United States from just remove the United States from the factoring of it, Canada would be number one by far. Canada would be number one in police-involved shootings, and the majority of people shot are Black, brown, and Indigenous peoples, and people dealing with mental health issues. Yeah, so as much as we like to point to the States and be like, oh, they're so bad. Yeah, well, we're number 2. So the ticket was filled out by an officer with Station 39, the same police station where 16 officers are now under investigation for racist and hateful acts against Black and Arab individuals. I covered this in an earlier live stream. They were literally cutting off the dreadlocks of some of the people that they brought in as souvenirs. Just disgusting, disgusting behavior. And so she says, dismantle the whole racist institution. Anti-Black racism in our public institutions is a crisis at all levels of the government and must urgently be addressed. Yeah, so Montreal Nord family alleges abuse of police power after his birthday. Yeah. And that leads into this. And so Desmond Cole works for The Breach Media. That's a progressive media channel magazine. It's not a magazine. They do posting, but they also make videos now. Really good stuff. And so he has a video about racist cops that I thought was worth a watch. So that is exactly what we're going to do. And so he had tweeted this out. You can also find The Breach on YouTube. And this video would be available on YouTube as well if you would wish to watch it there instead of watching it on my stream. A cop shared racist profile posts online and is kept on the force. A police board member is allowed to serve even though her son is a senior officer. Cops publish data on their harmful practices, but nothing changes. Our latest on what pushed a Hamilton police board member to resign. So not only are they racist, and there's been documented cases of that, like 16 that are under investigation in Montreal, the same place where he was pepper sprayed. But Ottawa in particular is really bad for their police officers using their abilities to stalk women, ex-partners, or even just a woman they meet at the gym. They will use their powers to stalk them. Multiple cases of that. And then the police chief came out and just said, released a video, and I covered it too. Released a video. It's like, come on, guys, just stop it. Can you stop it? It's making us look bad. Just stop misusing your powers to stalk these women. It doesn't look good. It does not look good. You know, they're not going to actually punish these men. They're not going to do anything about it. And quite often when there is a punishment, they're talking about, what's the word? Demotion. And do you know what those demotions sometimes cost? You know, because these police officers, they get over $100,000 a year. And after the demotion, do you know what they get? Over $100,000 a year. Yeah, that's quite the punishment there. And then they also get like paid suspensions. So that's like paid time off, vacation. No real consequences. There needs to be an absolute overhaul. Defund. What's my phrase? Oh, defund, dismantle, reinvent. And that's what I say. Defund, dismantle, reinvent.
A member of Hamilton's Police Services Board is resigning and calling for the body to be dismantled. In the process, she's exposing incompetence, bias, and conflict of interest in police oversight that is a problem across Canada. For almost 3 years, Anjali Menezes, a family physician, researcher, and educator, has served on the Hamilton Board, a civilian governing body that's supposed to oversee the local police force. But she says that she's seen more cheerleading for cops than holding them to account.
The whole thin blue line thing, yes. They do like to protect their own. And we see it in the media all the time. When a police officer is shot in the line of duty, politicians, the media, they're all out, they're all commenting, they're all saying stuff. But when the average Joe dies at their job, nothing is said or done. You know, there's other places that need safer workplace, you know, measures put in place and all that sort of stuff. People's whose lives mattered too. And more often than not, it feels like the police, you know, the people who are supposed to keep the community safe, are the ones causing a lot of the trauma.
The general orientation of most of the board members is being unquestionably supportive of police. This feeling that support is equal to governance.
A lot of the recent history of Hamilton policing deserves scrutiny. Violence and bigotry against queer communities, a cop who punched a handcuffed woman in the face, and the killing of a Black community member whom police shot at 24 times.
Yeah, and Canada's #2 for police-involved shootings and people dying. And majority of them Black, Brown, Indigenous, and often suffering from mental health issues.
There's also Hamilton Police Constable Renato Greco. He was suspended last year after CBC reported that he was sharing racist and extremist content online.
In posts on social media.
Also, when there was that occupation in Ottawa, a lot of the police officers, there was videos of them chatting it up with the truck convoyers. Yep, chatting it up with the right-wingers. So, yeah, they weren't about to do anything about it when they're going to be heading up to the barbecue later on type thing. But if you try to peacefully protest an encampment being taken down, they get violent really fast.
He said police and military should stage a coup and reshared extremist content, like this post about white genocide from a white supremacist Second Sons member.
Hamilton police asked a neighboring police force to investigate Greco and have since kept him on the force in what they call a non-public facing role. In the wake of this,
we demoted him to an easier job.
Menezes proposed an independent review of police policies on hate groups and hate symbols. Her colleagues didn't just reject the motion, they seemed insulted that she'd even put it forward.
Bringing an independent reviewer tells me that the belief in our service isn't there. It's a bad taste for me.
I'm more in tune with looking at the positives versus always the negatives.
For years now, Hamilton's police have disproportionately used.
Let's look at the positives of their racism. How about that? Yeah, let's not address any of the issues. Just, let's look at the positives. Like one time, a police officer helped a little old lady cross the street. There's that. And another time, they showed up to a break and enter well after the criminal got away, but they weren't mean to the people there. They didn't solve the crime either, but, they weren't mean.
Used force against Black and Middle Eastern residents. Menezes has raised this as a concern. Many of her colleagues, not so much.
And it's great because the use of force remains rare still. With all these things coming at the police, they're doing a great job, so thank you for that.
Menezes has also pushed back against her colleagues' efforts to involve police in local schools.
Having police presence within schools disproportionately impacts Black, Indigenous, racialized students with disabilities, and students from the LGBTQS communities.
But again, many of her colleagues have different ideas.
My son was a police liaison for many years. I remember all the kids playing basketball with police officers.
Yeah, one time we went out and shot some hoops with them. And then they shot some Black kid in the block next door. Yep,
Student respected the police. So I am sure there's evidence base that it benefits. I am sure.
Did you catch City Councilor and board member Esther Paul saying that her son used to be a cop at a local school? John Pauls used to work at a neighboring police force, but now he's a senior officer in Hamilton, where his mommy is on the board. Pauls has faced scrutiny for years over this obvious conflict of interest, but the city has allowed her to remain in this position. In fact, Pauls is now vice chair of Hamilton's police board. Menezes says that her own treatment by her colleagues reflects a broader culture in Hamilton.
The dehumanization that I'm experiencing when you are refusing to even learn how to pronounce your colleague's name for 3 years.
Member Menezes. Member Menezes.
Member Menezes.
That same dehumanization that we're seeing, in terms of how...
If I ever work with somebody for 3 years and I don't get their name right, it is totally not intentional. I have issues remembering people's names and faces. Everyone knows. I even have a graphic that I can pull up on screen, on my main screen, to say I cannot pronounce names. And even when I worked in an office for 8 years, they were still, by the time I was done, I would go in the morning and just say morning to some people without using their names because I was not sure I would get their name right. Just saying. That is my instance. That's not everyone's. If I don't get somebody's names right, it's not because I don't care. It's because my brain doesn't fucking work.
Systematically and structurally racialized Hamiltonians are being treated.
Her board colleague and city councilor Cameron Kretsch says he's never seen anyone on the board treated as she has been.
You see, this is where I run into problems with the word English and names. He said this was Cameron Kretsch. I look at that and I do not see that sound. Just saying. I would see Crow-teshed.
Kretsch says he's never seen anyone on the board treated as she has been.
The board members, by and large, can't even take the time to learn her name, how to say it properly. There's so much that goes on here that just feels acrimonious and antagonistic toward Angie because she's doing exactly what I did, which was ask questions that people thought I shouldn't be asking or shouldn't be allowed to ask.
His own experiences highlight the level of dysfunction in Hamilton. In 2024, Kretsch's colleagues voted to investigate him and allege that he violated the code of conduct after he criticized the police budget and put forward motions to shrink it. Ontario's Police Commission cautioned Kretsch, but dismissed nearly all of his colleagues' complaints against him. And notably, the commission found that the board's 2024 budget process had significant deficiencies, and that Kretsch's treatment suggests that the board is not open to different perspectives on policing. There's plenty of evidence that police oversight in Hamilton isn't working. The question is...
Or anywhere. Because, Ottawa, it's not great. Montreal, it's not great. Yeah, it's an issue. It's a widespread issue. Defund. Defund, deconstruct, reinvent.
Is what, if anything, the city and province are willing to do about it.
Okay, moving on to Mehdi Hassan. You see, this is where we're getting into problems right now online. And I've mentioned this before because I'm totally trying to strike terror into the hearts of everyone who watches. But it's a thing. Elon Musk and others who are in charge of social medias and big tech companies and governments and stuff, the Epstein type class, are gearing up for an ethnic cleansing of all Western nations. And so Elon Musk says accusations of racism have been weaponized to stop criticism and common sense. And that's what happens here. If you accuse the police of being, well, that's not what's happening there, but He's trying to dismiss what's happening here. Okay, let's get my words and thoughts in order. Elon Musk is trying to dismiss something like this. Like, the police aren't being racist. You're just being sensitive. And as Mehdi Hassan says, every racist ever. And so it is spreading online like crazy. Some of the rhetoric going out there, some of the denialism of any sort of hatred, when it is blatant. It is blatant that this is racism. It is blatant that there is a genocide going on in Gaza with the Palestinians. It is blatant that Zionists are horrible people. It is blatant that a lot of the cops are racist. But you have people who have some of the most power in our social medias trying to dismiss what we can all see, what we all feel, what we all live through every day. More from Mehdi Hassan just kind of pointing this out, because here we have Victoria was saying 3 men who allegedly helped a rapist drug and abuse his wife have been named. They include a paramedic and former chief executive of a lower league football club. And Mehdi just saying, hey, has Elon Musk tweeted about these men? If not, why? And he's pointing back to when the pogrom was happening in Northern Ireland. Elon was stoking that flame. Elon was talking about how the Muslim man who attacked others was, Satan incarnate, pretty much. But when it comes to white men who are perpetrators of horrific crimes, crickets. All the time. All the time. But it's not just that. And again, this is why I'm really trying to raise the alarm as to what they're doing. Elon Musk and other people like him. Because I went over this in a different live stream. It's probably going to work its way into my TYT essay too. If you go back and you look at the rhetoric. No, this was on this space. When Wednesdays I go on this space, I was talking about this. If you go back to the Rwanda genocide, and back there they had radio. And if you look at the rhetoric that was happening on the radio, what they were calling the victims of the genocide and things of that sort, it's the same rhetoric that was being used in Myanmar on Facebook. Because what people need to understand is let's switch to the shot while I'm going off on a rant. What's important to realize there is that Facebook was their internet, not Google, not other kind of things like that. It was Facebook, and Facebook allowed this to go rampant. And the rhetoric was the same, talking about them being cockroaches, that they're trying to replace us, that they're violent, and all of this sort of stuff. And it's the exact same rhetoric and fear-mongering that is happening right now on the biggest social media platforms that go cross borders. They are trying to set up all Western nations for an ethnic cleansing. The pattern's there. It's there. And the governments seem to be in line, because we have police officers that do nothing when the perpetrators of these riots and pogroms are white. But then they beat down people of color, people protesting the genocide, people who live with poverty that are protesting an encampment being destroyed. They'll get abused and beaten. But the white people going to the trucker convoy, the occupation of Ottawa, the police officer's like, yeah, I wish I could join you, but, I'm busy at work right now. Maybe later. Save some marshmallows for me to roast over the barbecue. And if this isn't going to get called out, if this isn't going to get dealt with, it keeps escalating. Case in point. Josh Olson is just saying the richest man in the world is actively pushing a movie that openly promotes the graphic, brutal, and wholesale slaughter of Muslim immigrants. This isn't some plausible, deniable hand gesture. This is explicit. Because here we have Elon Musk posted Armine Hammer's banned film Citizen Vigilante on X for 48 hours. It's only going to get worse. So many people out there trying to deny what Elon Musk was doing was the exilo. Yeah, that's dyslexia. Whatever. You know what I mean, that hand gesture. So many people trying to deny it, but, you know, they've stopped with the dog whistles. They're now just giving out dog treats. Because this is absolutely grotesque, and it's only going to get worse. The Surf saying, immigrant who made the worst video game movies of all time, from publicly funded film grants to shoot taxpayers by not having to pay them back if the film bombs, makes snuff film about killing greedy immigrants wanting handouts. Because if we keep on watching it, they'll be able to do part 2. It's only going to get worse unless people with power do something about it. Moving on to the next hell story. This is happening in the UK. All transgender prisoners will be moved out of women's prisons today, the Justice Secretary has revealed. And this person quote tweeting that, saying, "This is a state sanction of rape as punishment for a crime. Nothing more to say, and nothing else can be said about it. One day, in maybe 50 years or so, everyone will have been against this." And you know how a lot of Western nations will be like, "Ooh, Sharia law, look at what they're doing." You know, they'll have rape as punishment. That's exactly what they're doing. Sending a trans woman into a male's prison. You're setting her up for horrors beyond belief. And in case people don't understand, like, it is the way you have to word things so that people can finally, like, clue in. If the person you're talking to, at least at the bare minimum, believes that trans women are women, then you simply say to them, so, if a cis woman is guilty of a sex crime towards another woman, she gets sent to the male's prison, right? Is that what you're saying? Because if trans women are women, and they are, they should be treated the same. But you would never do that, would you? But if it's a trans woman, then you do. Just like if there's a man that commits a sex crime against another man, he's not sent to the women's prison. Also, on top of that, a lot of the sex crimes that trans women will be convicted of are things like going into the bathroom that matches their gender identity. That they were being trans in public. That they did a drag show. Those are what's being labeled as sex crimes. But I've been covering this type of story before. You know that we knew this was coming. And here in Canada, if we don't be vocal about it now, if we don't make our stance known that this is not okay, it's only a matter of time. I showed this in last night's live stream, but wanted to reiterate it. Pierre Poilievre, the leader of the official opposition, had tweeted this out during Pride Month. No biological men should be in women's prisons, period. And he's quote tweeting a National Post article, which is a right-wing rag, saying judge to decide if transgender women with history of sex crimes should go to women's jail. So in this statement alone, Pierre is escalating it because he's not saying convicted of sex crimes. He's saying all trans women should be sent to male prisons, regardless of the crime. And Faye Johnstone, an advocate here, says, in other words, let's gleefully subject trans women to violence in prisons designated for men to score cheap political points against our woke opponents. Our lives, our safety, and our dignity mean nothing to people like Pierre Poilievre. And it keeps escalating. In the United States, there are multiple countries. Depending on which state you're in, you have rights as a trans person or zero rights as a trans person. And the state is actively trying to genocide you. So new Louisiana law allows dead naming of trans people in the workplace. In other words, they don't want trans people in the workplace because there might be trans people in the workplace right now who aren't out. But then this type of thing, because it escalates, some places will start forcing people to use the name on the birth certificate, which would then out some trans people. But this also allows for harassment in the workplace. And if you're going to get harassed at the workplace all the time, you're not going to last at that job. And this is from Pink News. A new Louisiana law will shield workers from discipline if they refuse to use a transgender or non-binary colleague's name or pronouns. Republican Governor Jeff Landry signed Act 579 to allow into law on May 30th, with the measure due to take effect August 1st, as reported by a local NBC affiliate. The law prohibits employers from disciplining workers who refuse to share their own pronouns, decline to address a colleague by anything other than their birth name, or use pronouns that match a person's sex assigned at birth rather than their gender identity. All those people who are like, oh, we don't like big government, we want small government. This is the government dictating what a company is and is not allowed to put into policy. Supporters have framed the measure as a protection for First Amendment free speech rights. LGBTQ+ advocates argue it amounts to a state-sanctioned license to discriminate against transgender and non-binary workers. Democrat State Representative Joy Walters raised concern about the law impact on LGBTQ+ workers' employment and mental health. They're scared that this is all seemingly happening during Pride Month, she said. To experience this level of hatred, whatnot, again, it is scary to be one-dimensional and not accepting of other people. Walters also questioned Launder's use of religious arguments to support the legislation, noting he has previously backed laws rooted in Christian beliefs. Not everyone is a Christian, but also not everyone Christian has the same set of beliefs within the religion itself, she said. Speaking about, this law based in his belief, this Christian belief, breaking, the Texas State Board of Education has voted to make Bible passages required reading in public schools. And Mehdi Hassan was quote tweeting this, saying, same people who go nuts about Zohran Mandami even mentioning his faith in public are totally pro this. Politicians are making laws based on their extremist Christian fundamentalist views. And they're making it easier, and they're forcing it on other people now. Because the Bible passages are required reading now in Texas. But somebody here just pointing out, hot take, religious beliefs are not equal to me being queer, and you should have zero legal right to use religion as an excuse to discriminate against things that are actually real. Yes. Who you were born as, that's real. I'm a real person. I'm non-binary. There's no proof any religion actually exists, that they're gods, their spirits, their afterlife. None. There's no proof that my belief system and what I believe actually is real when it comes to what happens after you die. I'm here. I exist. I'm non-binary. That's real. And so to try to deny me on your made-up beliefs, because that person was quote tweeting this, just saying the Iranian Football Federation has called on FIFA to ban rainbow symbols ahead of the World Cup Pride match between Iran and Egypt. The Federation argues that such displays would be incompatible with the religious values and beliefs of both nations. And it's getting worse. There was a moment around the world where queer rights were improving. More countries were legalizing same-sex marriage. Things were looking beneficial. But then we ran into an issue. People like Elon Musk. People like Steve Bannon. People that were behind Project 2025. They've been spreading out. They've been infiltrating other countries. Their right-wing agenda is going global. And things are now getting worse. Niger military introduces new penal code criminalizing homosexuality with 5 to 10 years in prison. Niger's military announced a new penal code that criminalizes homosexuality, an advisor to the justice minister said Friday. The West African nation is the latest to criminalize homosexuality following similar measures earlier this year in Senegal. The new penal code punishes anyone who commits or attempts to commit an immodest or unnatural act or practices lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, intersex, asexual, LGBTQI+ acts. Some people were tweeting this like, oh, it's now illegal to be intersex. That's not exactly what the law is saying. They were just saying, basically, if you're queer, it's illegal. So as long as you're intersex and you don't acknowledge it to anyone, I'm sure you'd be fine. No, you wouldn't, but you know what I mean. With between 5 and 10 years in prison and a fine according to the text of a new penal code. The same penalty is applicable to persons who officiate or the marriage to the witnesses of the alleged spouses, as well as to persons who have given their consent for the celebration of the marriage and to the organizers, the new penal code said. So even if you support other people living their lives, you could be in trouble. Just like in the States, you know, if you support people trying to get an abortion, you can be charged. If you support people who are gay or trans in certain schoolrooms in Florida, you can get charged. In fact, they have bounties on people who might be going against their religious fundamentalism in different states. So this person said, an advisor to the justice minister confirmed to the Associated Press on Friday that the new law took effect on Thursday. Previously, homosexuality wasn't illegal in Niger, but has been heavily stigmatized. Law prohibiting homosexuality are common across Africa, with more than 30 of the 54 countries criminalizing same-sex sexual acts. Niger has joined countries like Senegal, Kenya, Sierra Leone, and Tanzania, where penalties can include 10 or more years imprisonment. In Somalia, Uganda, and Mauritania, the offense can carry the death penalty. And so here we have just an article from Erasing 76 Crimes saying homosexuality is now legal in 66 nations. The latest nation was Niger. So just scooching down here. So before these, so some countries have reversed. So they decriminalized homosexuality and now they've reversed those laws. And so the article says, before those reversals, the number of nations with laws against gay sex had fallen to 63 from more than 90 at the beginning of the 2000s. The latest countries to end the criminalization of same-sex intimacy are Sir Lucia in 2025, Namibia, Niue, and Dominica in 2024, and some other countries. So here they're saying, yeah, it dropped down and now it's increasing again. So it was 90 nations. Fallen to 63, and now it's back up to 66, and it's only going to get worse. And a lot of this is not born from those countries. A lot of it is the Christian fundamentalism that's being spread, the evangelical Christian. They have organizations going to other countries to try to promote this. So this article here just shows a map of it. Human Dignity Trust, map of jurisdictions that criminalize LGBT people. The map below provides an overview of jurisdictions across the world where lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people are criminalized. So here we are here. And if you click on it, you can see. I think if I go in closer, there we go. So, yeah, it's still an issue with that, but right now they're more concerned about the genocide happening there. Over here, we have life imprisonment. For here, Jamaica, criminalization. Criminalizes sexual activity between males. 10 years imprisonment with hard labor. I'm surprised that the United States isn't on there yet, but I think it's because it's not federal. Because in some states it is illegal to basically talk about being gay, all that sort of stuff. And did this one have? There's another graphic I was going to show. No, I think that's it. So, yellow countries have sodomy laws, pink currently bills before parliament, orange laws have criminalized women. Okay, yeah, so just different codes. Oh, what a world, what a world. Yes, I got a passport to go down to the United States to see the Majority Report live show a bunch of years ago. That same passport is now the reason why I can't go to the United States. Because it has my ex-gender marker on it. Okay, on to the SandBox, and then we're going to wrap it up. We might get done before 3 hours? That'd be nice, actually. Let's see. Checking the SandBox. Let's see. So life for police, originally slave catchers in Canada too. The RCMP, that's the federal police, they were designed to police Indigenous peoples, including kidnapping children to take to residential schools. I think regular police forces, we had slavery in Canada, but not to the same extent as the United States. But I think our police forces were done not specifically for that, but for other, colonial reasons. But don't quote me on it. I just know about the RCMP. Grand Theft Autobot says, according to AI. Okay, I'm just going to stop there. But it would make sense if we had it in more of a British or UK connection to our policing. People talking about the treatment Rittenhouse got from the police. Yeah. If a black kid had shot anyone, police wouldn't be taking him out to Burger King. They'd probably shoot him dead. BCAT, whenever I'm reminded of Rittenhouse, I'm reminded of his cry face. Yeah. Such a weak and pathetic individual. Hello, Synonymous. Saw a Nazi, the West is being invaded sticker in Toronto. Yeah. So Live the source covered this, but I missed the Elon part. Oh, that's why different people should be covering different things. Because the Elon part wasn't really attached. If we're talking about the Montreal shooter. Elon wasn't attached to that. Or are you talking about the movie? Yeah. Elon was attached to that for sure in promotion. Looney Tunes, fuck my governor. Louisiana? So Live, they better apply it to the Daves that are David on the birth certificate too. Yeah. No, they're only going to enforce it in certain ways. I think we all know that. Once had somebody ask me what was on my birth certificate for name because they didn't like the fact that my name is Sandy and not short for Cassandra. It was literally like, oh, what's your name, Sandy? Is that short for Cassandra? No, my name is Sandy. But Cassandra, no. My name is Sandy, but can I call you Cassandra? My name is Sandy, but what's on your birth certificate? A big fuck you is on my birth certificate. Oops. Jumped. Where was I? You're seeing a different side of me now. Now that I'm looking over there, but the SandBox is supposed to looking over there. You're seeing a completely different side of me. My right side. BCAT, my state arrested that guy and kept him locked up for a month because he courted Charlie Kirk in response to Kirk's killing. Kirk's kirking. Yeah. Everyone should check out my video on that. So Life, I had a sweet old Uberman. I had a sweet old man Uber driver tonight, and he was a Trump voter that thought the border was wide open under Biden, and I had no idea because he was talking about how bad Trump too is. In search for an image of Mehdi Hassan. Also, I like to watch his debates. He was on trigonometry, and they talked about this very topic, which is worth watching. The open border thing. So you can check out Mehdi Hassan on trigonometry. They're not usually concerned about the Canadian border unless they can fearmonger with it. There was the fentanyl thing that Trump said that got Carney to concede to his will type of stuff. When you Google things, Soul Life, and anyone else, Google it, then do -AI. You can thank me later. B-Cat Rittenhouse literally approached cops with a gun after shooting 2 people, and they asked him if he needed a water or something. Yeah, and there's been right-wing marches and protests and stuff like that where I saw footage of a guy who actually shot at people, waved his gun around, and the cops are standing right there and do nothing. Looney Tunes, yep, Louisiana. Okay, yeah, so working on my new drawing, only about 4 hours in. It looks a little pudgy right now. Again, it's the shading and stuff. Once the background is in, it's going to pop a hell of a lot more. Because the skin still needs to be darkened for the shadowing and all that sort of stuff. Still a lot of work that needs to be done on it. Everyone read my book. Read my book. I finally figured out a plot thingy. Almost. I just need to confirm something. Because I needed something that happened about 550 years ago to 600 years ago. Something so bad it would make the vampires need to have to do a new mandate thing. And it's like, but I want to match it up to something historical. What on earth could it be? Well, duh, Vlad the Impaler. We'll go with that. We'll go with that. I will go with that. I just need to check. Get out of there. Never nappy. Get out. You can come on my lap, but you can't chew on things in garbage. I just need to do some time math to make sure that things will match up before I start losing my mind into it too much. Okay, just get out. That cat sometimes. And I can't wait to get back to my book. I can't get back to my book until I'm done the TYT essays. And so I was working on it a bit today. Nothing that I can share yet because the segment wasn't even completed. Because, of course, rabbit hole, had to watch a few videos, be like, oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, I need to add that. Because I have a clip of them talking about the wildfires in California in 2025. Compare and contrast with their video about the wildfires in California in 2019. Ooh, that is some different rhetoric there. So yeah, still lots of work to get done. So everyone, you can check me out on this space at 4 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday. That is indeed Canada Day. So I will be talking about Canada stuff. Be keeping it a bit of a lighter episode, so it should be fun. It'll be a lot of fun. So come out for that. Next Sunday is my regular news live stream. Let me get these thingies up. Any help financially is greatly appreciated. I need a new table before this one collapses. I'm nervous. I have one on my Amazon wish list that you cannot buy for me unless you send me a Amazon gift card, but it's like $240. I'm not expecting miracles. But anything else helps. Super chats, becoming members of both the SandBox here, but also Patreon. That way, if YouTube ever decides to demonetize me, I have a little bit of a backup. Also, just buying my book, checking out my art, all of that sort of stuff. Following me on all the different social medias for all the different reasons. So it's Sandy Lovis and LeftoftheBox on most things. Yeah. I think with all of that, I'm going to end this sooner than later. Oh, right. I need to see if anyone is streaming that I am familiar with that I can pass y'all on to. I'm not normally streaming Monday night, so let's see who is available. All right, I have to go to the screen, don't I? Edit. Oh, I can send you over. Oh, right. Crap, I need to click on that, don't I? Stupid TYT. It's almost over. You see, I have to try to at least click on TYT's live show every day so that if they say something later on, I can go back to it and find the clip. I just clicked on it. You're not hearing it. I muted it for you guys at least. It's muted for me too. Well, no, not exactly. That's all I needed to see. Pep Talks is live. I sent you all to Lucy yesterday. Well, I guess we'll raid Pep Talks. I don't think you guys want me raiding TYT. So everyone say hi to Pep Talks. I will be tuning out to go get dinner and all that sort of fun stuff. So I think with all of that, I'm going to sign off and I'll see you all soon. So, right, I gotta go to the screen. Salut, à la prochaine. Thank you for watching and stay tuned. I'm Sandy, wishing your tomorrow is better than your today.